Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. Well, today's guest on the program is a returning guest, and I thought about how to start this program because of, I'll call it his origins. Quoting from a movie, he's back. Toni Ghazi is my guest here on the program. Toni, it is wonderful to have you back here again to continue our conversation. It was so much fun the last time. I have no idea, as you probably feel the same way, what we're going to talk about, because as we both sort of live by, we both live by the universe is in control, and it's what are we going to do, not so much in response to that, but how are we going to flow with this? As a matter of fact, that was a phrase you used just before we started. Welcome.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me here again. It's always to be good in your presence. Your energy is amazing, and of course your audience too. Thank you for receiving me with an open heart. I don't remember what we said the last time, but it doesn't matter because that was that now moment. So now we're in this now moment. So I'm excited to see what the universe wants us to talk about, just with the surrender of flow, right?
Yeah.
Flow. We're in this river and we're allowing the river to take us wherever it wants to take us without trying to steer it this way or trying to grab to this branch or a tree. So let's see what unfolds today.
It's really funny too, because I'm working with one company, one PR firm, dealing with setting up interviews with their people, and every once in a while I'll get this question: could you send us a list of questions? And I always have to respond with no, because I have no clue what we're going to talk about, other than if you've got some points you want to bring up, I'm open to that. But the universe asks the questions, I'm just along for the ride. And that's usually sufficient because they're sort of in the same mindset as I am. You, Toni, are also known as the Antarean-Heart. And you, that which is a channel, you're a spiritual guide, among other things. I noticed that a lot of my guests of late, their channels, they're intuitives. I think the word psychic is going out the window. I think that means a whole different thing. And that's where you go to the circus, or the state fair, what have you, and you go into this room and there's somebody dressed up in the gypsy garb, so to speak, with a crystal ball and all of that stuff. Now, I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that we have to use some discernment when we seek out guidance. Let's start there. Let's start there when it comes to discernment of someone that the universe has sent our way. And maybe that's the best way to put it. Obviously, you're guided as well. When people come to you, do you ever run into the issue that where The universe is telling me, and you're speaking to yourself, I I need to leave this person alone. This person is not someone that is ready, really ready. I mean, yes, they've come to me, but have you ever run into that?
It's absolutely ironic you asked that question. I won't be able to delve into a lot of details because it's
Mm-hmm.
because I want to protect the person and the like the point of sharing is not to throw anybody under the bus or anything of that
Correct. Yeah.
sort. It's
Mm-hmm.
never because we all have our path. It was really all for me to discern. So discernment is a skill, not that it's hard to attain or get to, but it's truly listening. What now I'm realizing, and it's so funny because for the past 2 weeks this has been unfolding and on disastrous proportions, I would say, um, but with total surrender of the flow where it's meant to lead. And what it led me really is that I've always had whispers. So like what's intuition and like what's discernment and like what's instincts? There normally aren't loud voices. They can be, but oftentimes there's a little whisper where you're
Mm-hmm.
like, in retrospect, I see the breadcrumbs of whispers. I mean, I could write a volume of books, as a joke,
Mm-hmm.
about all the whispers that I didn't see then that I see now. And it takes trust of self. It takes trust that that whisper you hear, that little like nagging feeling, that emotion that could be discussed, or we could misinterpret it as my ego or I'm judging somebody, or because when you don't trust yourself, when you don't trust the whispers until you trust it, you're kind of fighting yourself and saying, "Oh, I want to be a good person." Or or like I don't see, like, because look, when you don't see with clarity like what's in front of you, those whispers are there to help you see what you don't see. But when you don't trust those whispers, then you go through that path and like you go like through that journey, you get to a point where it becomes so blatant that you say what you say, and then the moment that you own it and you get to this point where you are able to express your voice, right? Then all these whispers become clear, and when they become clear, then you learn the next time you're able to detect like those whispers, right? So discernment may be challenging like initially only because we haven't learned to trust our voice, because we always think the voice is coming from outside of us. God's going to give us a voice, Jesus, Mother Mary, these saints, Krishna, Buddha. No, you are giving your voice all the time, and you're always talking to yourself and leading you. So I just went through that. It's absolutely ironic you asked that question, but that tells you how tapped in we are. Because nobody knows that I've gone through that. Only the few people that we experienced this very challenging and ascending journey, really, right? Because also the other aspect of it is you look at what you didn't see before. What are you learning through this? How is this helping me ascend and be a better person in a sense? Or what did I not see before that I can see now? In what mirror are they showing me inside of myself, right? And when you see it from that perspective, then it kind of falls off that like that like challenging journey will not carry that charge of the anxiety, how can I be fooled and what happened? Did I not see the signs? Then you begin seeing it from a higher perspective of, okay, this was all lessons for me, and I'm grateful I went through it, truly, truly grateful, because it allowed me to really trust myself even beyond what I already trusted myself. There are always layers of trust towards self, and I just upgraded myself to a new level of absolute like conviction. And the next time I hear a whisper, I'm gonna go with it, period. And to be able to speak my truth when I feel right, because you could feel those things and like you shut yourself up and say, no, like don't say this because you may sound like you're judging them, or like don't say this because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Like my thing is, I don't like to hurt people's feelings. And that's always been my struggle all my life, is to get to a point where I feel comfortable. But this gave me that opportunity to really speak my truth from a very heart center and create boundaries, right? It's okay to create boundaries. And it doesn't mean you're not like invalidating their experience. It doesn't mean you're not like seeing them as like your ascended masters and as like your teachers and as your mirrors. But in this lifetime, we have a free will choice to play with people or not. And and I made a clear and like conscious choice that I'm going to create that boundary and just separate because the frequencies aren't the same. The vibrations, aren't the same. And I ignored those signs for months and months and months.
Yeah.
And it taught me a really big lesson. And we move on and we ascend, and that's
Yeah.
all you could do.
It sounds to me like it's very important for us to, as we talk about on this program, listen to that still small voice. That is really a true guide. Another method that is still accessing that intuition that is more geared towards the material world is a thing called kinesiology. They call it muscle testing. It goes by a lot of different names. And oh my gosh, I learned about that almost 40 years ago, maybe more, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I learned it from a woman who had a program on a Christian radio station. Now, I don't know whether she referred to herself as such, but it sure seemed like she had some very open views and perspectives on things. And if the station management and listeners and other programmers had heard about those things, she might have been drummed out of the station. But it was fascinating to me, the process that is so easy. And after a while, when you do it, you don't even have to do the physical aspect. I mean, there are several different ways. One in particular is you take your thumb and forefinger on one hand, and then you loop your other thumb and forefinger through it. So now you have like two links in a chain, and you basically you say the word yes, and the fingers come apart as you pull gently. If you say no, they don't come apart, or however, whichever direction. And after a while, like for example, if you're going into the grocery store and you're looking for something to eat that's good for you, that's healthy. Now, aside from always shopping at the ends of the store, not in the middle, that philosophy, you get to the produce section, and yeah, they have the organic section and the non-organic. Okay, fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's organic, it's necessarily something that is necessarily good for you personally. That maybe your body just doesn't care much for Brussels sprouts or carrots or whatever it is. So then you reach for something, it feels right. And it's along the same lines with me. Over the years, I've been wanting to publish my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. Now, I finally did it. It is finally published. It is now available on Amazon. But over the years, I would constantly be talking on this program. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to do it. And here's the date December 12th of 2012. And it comes and goes. And I would throw out other dates throughout the years. Finally, in June of 2024, this year, I finally said, you know what? I've got a rather significant date coming up, September 7th. It's the 17th anniversary of this program. My mother's birthday, 90, is on the 17th of September, 10 days later. I said, that's my deadline. And it felt, I could feel it inside. That's it. And I had found a method of getting it self-published through Amazon's kdp.com website. And it was so fascinating to experience that in June and still feel it every day after. And then, of course, I told myself, okay, now you've only got 2.5 months. All right, get to business. And then, of course, it was already written. I just needed to go through and edit it. And of course, in the future, I will find someone who will proof it, who will edit it rather than myself, just simply because several sets of eyes are better. But that's kind of what we're talking about here. I as of this conversation, I'm a big baseball fan, so I'm watching the World Series, and I watched the game on Tuesday night out of New York, and I'm watching the New York Yankees just disassemble the Dodgers, so to speak. And they beat the Dodgers, but they're still down 3 games to 1, and no team has ever come back from 3-0. Well, okay, maybe the Yankees will do it this year. Maybe they will be the first team to ever do it. We'll see. but it's like, I'm not worried. And it's not that I'm a big Dodger fan. I just like the game. I just love watching the game. Not a fan of some of the new rules, but the game itself is a beautiful metaphor because you get to watch. I wish we were able to do this, Tony. We could watch our game and then play the armchair manager in the dugout. Okay, let's see. We got all right. We're ahead by two. It's a seventh inning. We got the leadoff runner. Da 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 da. All right. So what are we going to do? All right. Now, granted, we say what are we going to do, but it all depends upon the batter and the pitcher and what they do, and then the geometry of it all and the physics of it all. Once the ball is hit by that bat and where that's going to go. Okay, now that plan is sort of out the window, but at the same time, it's like, okay, the general rules are that this is what you do. Have you ever come up with a method, a plan, maybe not a plan, but should I use the word formula or steps to follow when we know that our lives are totally uncertain? We don't know whether we're going to live to see the next sunrise or not, let alone the next sunset. And not wanting to plan too far ahead, but staying focused on our life's purpose, listening to that still small voice, all of that stuff. What have you developed in your life to go with the flow? Maybe that's the best way to put it, to go with the flow and yet still have that sense of satisfaction inside that, yeah, I'm doing this. Okay. I'm doing it, but not from an ego perspective. It's like with me, I published my book, but it's because I listened to the still small voice and it opened the doors that allowed me to do that. Talk to us about your perspectives and observations.
Listen, I'm gonna respond in the following way, and I really appreciate the way that you chose the example of sports because I don't follow sports, and although I didn't understand the terms, but it was good for me because I could discern energetically what you meant. So this is awesome for me and for your audience if they do or not. But as you were speaking and beginning to formulate your question to ask me, I could feel the idea of surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And really, and look, what does that mean? Because look, our vocabulary, our whole humanity has like chosen the idea of of words to describe what we experience, right? But truly, what we experience is way beyond words. Like words will not ever be able to experience what we go through truly. But because we're on this limited aspect of reality, we chose to be limited, and like part of that limitation is not to be able to experience the all. The words are a manifestation of that. The like limitation of expression of everything. The way that I'm going to answer it is what the Mantis beings told me and what they made me feel. Because if I answer it from my mind, it's going to be very 3D. If I answer it how they kind of made me like experience, it will make sense. It's just you need to get to that point to begin living it.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my train of thought. Thanks, Mantises. R- Please repeat the question one more time. It was about surrendering.
Wondering about saying it's okay to say I did this, but from the perspective of I listened, I followed the promptings, and
Yes.
wow, look what happened. What a
Yes.
wonderful experience.
Yeah, you said formula. It just came back, right? So like, welcome to my memory. It just remembers what it needs to remember, and that alone, I trust it. Like, I have, I have like the courage enough to say, you know what, I forgot your question, but now I'm like, I remember your question.
Mhm.
That is perfect of speaking your voice, right? So, and like, you don't have to pretend that you remember the question. I just forgot the question. Like, I can help it. I'm being in the moment of being forgetfulness, and now I'm back in the moment of complete remembrance. When you mentioned the word formula. That's another like limited way of even it. the way that we ask questions always clues on where that question is really coming from and what limitations we have within us. There's always, and it's always layers, not one formula or one layer. But what they have told me, like through the many channel sessions I've had, and each person would ask very different questions based on their story, their path, and even like when I have a big audience, on stage, it's all like energies kind of working together to help either like the individual or all in all the other aspects of who we are. Is really, really, it boils down to the knowing that you are infinite. And like, bear with me like for 1 second. There's the intellectual aspect. I know I'm love, I'm light, I'm infinite. Yeah. Well, that's your mind just understanding a concept. But knowing what that means is a very different thing. Because when you really know that you are infinite and you are forever continuing to form and reform into the infinite of infiniteness, that already tells you like there's no death and there's no separation. And there's no destination. I don't know if we talked about this like the last time. There's no destination. But we've been so trained that there is some sort of destination, whether I want to be awakened or, I'm 25 years old now, where should I be in life? Or, I'm now 40 years old, I'm not married yet, I don't have kids, whatever these things that were fed in us that like you have to reach this point in life that will make you have to reach that point in life. And if you don't, then you're less than, you're disempowered. What they said is if you truly are able to tap into what it means that you are an infinite being and that you continuously go on and on and on, and through that you realize that the act of destination and the expression of destination really doesn't exist. Because let's say you want to reach this level, you reach that level, you get there and you realize, oh, there's more infinite, and you go to the next level and you realize, oh, there's more infinite. The more you do that, you realize there is no destination. But if you want to help your like physical brain to understand the infinite from the aspect of the destination, the only destination we have, if you want to put it that way, like they say, because they don't like to say it that way, but they're helping us to understand it, is the now moment. Because truly everything is occurring right here and right now. But in this now moment, there's the other aspect of total surrender of what is happening, like isness. Whatever's happening right now, if I'm feeling joyful and sad and confused and whatever, be in all those and allow those energies to be. Oftentimes we resist the experience we're going through, like right now. We may surrender to a small aspect of what's happening now, but we're resisting like another aspect because we're so trained to judge everything that, oh, if I'm feeling depressed today or sad, that's not a good thing, like something is wrong with me, what caused me to, but like through the eyes and lens of like creation, that is experience, that is ascension. You literally ascend, and I'm going through this all loop to get to the point that you literally ascend with every surrender that you have of what's happening in this now moment, whether it's one experience or a million emotions that are happening within that one experience. The total surrender allows you to have that moment of totally understanding what it means to be happy and joyful and sad and whatever you're going on right now without any resistance. And that is ascension. And when you begin to really tap into that energy, then you begin to see your life from a very different perspective. And you're not looking at, and I'm getting chills all over my body now because they're here. You're not looking at the future to give you like the milestones that I reach something, that, oh, I have ascended. Ascension is happening with every breath that we take, they say, with every heartbeat that we have. But when you begin realizing it, that's what ascension, then you become excited about life. Whatever you go through, if it's traumatic, non-traumatic, happy, on the spectrum of what we created as good, bad, evil, or neutral, will become your life. And it becomes like, wow, what am I going to experience right now? What am I going to experience in the next moment? And you accept, you receive, you be, you know that you're all of it. And with each surrender, you're expanding. The more we resist, the more that thing will continue to happen. That's why if you're in energy, I don't know, of lack or no abundance or not happiness, and you can't attract the love life, blah, 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 and all these things, it's not happening to me. It's not happening to me because you are not allowing what's not happening to you to be what it actually is. Because the moment that you surrender in the idea of, you know what, I'm in the world of lack today. I didn't make any money or and whatever it is. We resist that idea. We haven't, in our society, we haven't accepted the fact that it's okay, you know what, to be in the lack mentality today. And that resistance to us will continue for it to happen, because what it wants to because it's the act and the thought and the intention of lack is really consciousness and wants to be seen by you and wants to feel validated that it is part of creation because it is creation. And it continues to happen over and over again because you haven't looked at it straight in the face and said, lack, I may not desire you today, but I understand that you are part of creation and you are valid. And I love you with everything, with all my heart. And although I may not wish to be in the aspect of lack, I'm going to allow you today to be you, which is lack. And that is, and I'm getting chills right now, and that is surrender. And the moment you do that, and like, look at the chills, and like the moment that you do that,
Oh, wow.
then that experience you'll never experience again because that experience was seen by you as a valid part of creation and was loved by you with compassion and acceptance, and now it's part of you. You've experienced that aspect of like reality. Now, having said that, the idea of lack, since we're talking about lack, is not one lack. There are many different layers, and like there are many different like variations, of lack that are within the fabric of all. So you always experience different types of lack from a different like lens and aspect. But the more that you surrender into all of them and allowing them to simply be and speak to them as a being, then you'll never re-experience that type of lack. And that total surrender, that total like getting to know what everything is. Because if I say I'm infinite, like I'm infinite, which means every possibility, probability of anything that could ever be created, even if it's at 0.0000 like 1 inch degree, like and here comes the stuttering. And I'm gonna own my stuttering. I love you, stuttering. I see you. That is part of creation. So I'm losing my train of thought now, but I think you got my message. Yes.
Absolutely. And what I find interesting too is that especially when talking from that perspective of lack, that conversation we've had many times on this program when it comes especially and most specifically to money, to prosperity, to wealth and so forth. And it is often said that, well, you need to get rid of the attitude of lack. You need to shift. You need to change. You need to do this, do that, do the other. And yet at the same time, we'll sit there and we'll talk about our different emotions, sadness and grief and on and on. We'll just list the emotions. And we say, oh, and you need to go through those. You need to go through them. You need to experience them. You need to accept them. You need to, so to speak, befriend them. It doesn't mean you're going to get stuck. It just means that you say, hey, this is what I'm going through right now, and it's okay. And I will be okay when I go through it, when I come out the other side. Yeah. But when it comes to these other things like the attitude of lack, no, you need to make a shift. Whereas, no, and I'm understanding you. You need to own it. You need to accept it. You need to embrace it. Doesn't mean you're going to get stuck there. Yeah. It just says, this is what I'm feeling right now. And I can attest to the fact that I'm not alone. I've been there quite a bit, but I also have experienced, I had a bottoming out last week, as of our conversation here, last week, to where, now bear in mind, folks, when I say this, I really do mean this, fleeting. These were like a flash of, I think I want to join my brother, my sister, and my father on the other side. This is just really, I've had enough of, and it's like, it's almost as though I am going down to the bottom of that particular well, and it's almost as if I bounce off the bottom, and now I'm coming back up again, and I'm beginning to realize, oh, wait a minute. I've got this, and I'm grateful for that, and this, and the list goes on. Yeah. And all of a sudden, not only does my attitude, my perspective change, but everything around me outside of my physical body starts to change. Things start to happen that hadn't happened yet, and they might have happened anyway, even if I hadn't done the bottoming out. But it just seems as though if we would allow ourselves to do that, there's a phrase, I think it's Greek, but Robert Bly talks about it in his book Iron John, where specifically about men and how they reach what's called the katabasis, or that bottoming out, and talks about how, yeah, sometimes you got to bottom out. You just do. We're talking with Toni Ghazi. We'll continue that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it's a real pleasure to have Toni Ghazi back on the program to talk about this conversation. I know you have something you want to add in regards to this issue of bottoming out. Please share with us.
Yes, thank you so much. It's really funny. And what is bottoming out? That's total surrender. Because you've resisted so long to be in that vibration of what was trying to reach you many layers before you bottomed out, that you got to the point where you surrendered. And in that moment of surrender, why do breakthroughs happen when you bottom out? Because you have, and I'm getting chills again, because you have surrendered. And you didn't surrender like to the idea, I am disempowered, for the idea of lack or sadness or whatever. No, you've surrendered to the idea that that energy, I allowed myself to fully feel and not resist. Because we've been so conditioned, it's not good for you to be in lack. It's not good for you to be sad. It's not good for you to do this. It's not good for you to struggle. It's not good to, you have to be in the light. Everything has to be rosy and happy. And creation in the infinite, all of it is not just light.
Yeah.
It's the dark too. And I'll give you like my personal experience that I haven't shared. And I guess the more I step into the public into the public stage, it's really important for me to be authentic, because I don't want people to view me as some special person. Or I have insecurities. I have moments of lack. I have moments of abundance. I have moments of, blank. All kinds of words you say, right? Right. So like last week throughout this, through the difficult journey of discernment like that I had 2 weeks ago, I found out through like the sifting and kind of the constructing of this the like 6-7 months that I haven't like seen clearly, right? So I like began this relationship with this person, and I'm not speaking like romantically, but like as friends, and like things kind of like evolved, and the breadcrumbs, the like whispers that I had that we began like with the show, I didn't see and I didn't listen to and I didn't trust. Well, as I reconstructed it after the fact, and I had to speak to a few other people to kind of get the information, because I didn't want to, again, because I didn't trust my instinct, it was important for me like to rely on the source to make sure that, okay, I am not coloring the story with my thoughts and belief systems. I want it to come like from the source, so I know what the facts are, so I can reconstruct from that perspective. As I'm reconstructing it, like things would like come out of the blue, and like the person has said to a few of the people that, like he mentioned the word, or like they mentioned the word money, and that they view me as money, and like one person like mentioned the word loaded. Oh, like Tony may be loaded, right? Which is not true, by the way. But anyways, but when I heard that word loaded, it triggered me. I noticed within myself that I didn't want to be loaded.
Mm-hmm.
And like, listen to this. And after I finished like the call, I'm like, why in the hell do I not want to be loaded? Why am I like living in a vibration that it's not okay for me to be loaded? Hell no. And I kept saying, I am freaking loaded, although I'm not loaded. I have abundance. I have moments of lack. I have moments of absolute beautiful manifestations. There's always a flow, right? But why not be loaded? But that was my mirror, like for me to see within myself layers and layers that somehow, somewhere within my childhood, I don't know, at one point, I defined that if I am rich and if I'm loaded, that's not a good aspect to have. That's a bad thing to be. Because if like you're rich, you must be evil or whatever, or you must be, I don't know, who knows what creation. But that was a beautiful discernment, like for me, like yesterday. And I woke up this morning, and as I was showering, like before we got here, I was repeating, right? Because under the shower, it's a beautiful moment of meditation, or like when you're driving. And I kept saying, I'm loaded. Hell yeah. I was using a complete different word than hell yeah, a much stronger one. And you can imagine, hell yeah, I'm loaded. Like I was talking to myself, why deny myself the aspect of creation that I am loaded? And what a beautiful, beautiful, magical experience that I had to go through all that to get me to this one belief system that I never thought I had. And no wonder I would have moments of lack, and no wonder I would wonder, how can I have moments of absolute abundance? Like amazing abundance. Yet I would have moments of absolute lack. And that, um, you know, but in that moment, I needed to surrender. Like when I heard him describing to me, like, as loaded, and when I began like seeing other people's perspectives and how they see me, it triggered me. I'm like, is this all you see about me? Like that aspect, like you don't see the fact, like me, who I am, and all the other layers, right? It hurt a little bit. But also it really like told me that I am not owning the aspect, my version of me that is all money, that is all loaded, that is all abundance, right? So that was a beautiful, like it's beautiful how the universe works. And when you begin shifting your mindset and not defining the experience as, oh, I went through that experience, like people judge me, and I went through this pain, blah, 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 like this like negative thing, that I'm creating like a negative aspect of it. But because I was open enough to hear the whispers, and that word and that little trigger was a whisper. Like whispers comes in many different ways, not just the hearing aspect within your mind. It's what's being communicated from other people verbally that you're not seeing as a whisper. This is how you expand and shift yourself out of that vibration. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm loaded, and I'm gonna say that for the next 20 years probably. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like like these are the moments of awakening,
Yeah.
and that is awakening.
We've talked about money in the past on this program, and one of the things that I have uh, I reached a place where I was comfortable. I'm content. I'm happy with where I'm at. Now, when I say this next piece, this is not a criticism. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. This is just the reality. I have not had a raise in 16 years, but I've lived in the same place, one of the most expensive places probably in the country, if not on the planet, for 18 years. I'm still here. And then I thought, well, and I shared the story maybe with you the last time about the two guys would go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Great time. Bob would pay every time, having exactly the right amount. Fred would say at the end of the third meeting, first of all, Bob, thank you so much. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you picked up the tab each time. But I have one question. How is it you always have exactly the right amount each time we go out to pay the bill? So he tells him the story when he was cleaning his garage, found this lamp, dusty, dusted it off. Genie pops out. You have one wish. You can't wish for more wishes. Can I get back to you with that? Sure, I'll be here. Comes back and says, I want to have what I need when I need it. And that's how that happened. I thought, well, that ain't so bad. I mean, it's abundance, it's prosperity. It's like you have a level of abundance that is infinite because you're tapped into that infinite. And then I thought, well, but shouldn't I be a little more specific? And so I modified that, saying, okay, yes, I am still content, and I want more. And then I modified that one more time. I said, yes, I am content, and I want more, and I want to start with $100,000. And the things that I would do with it. And then I have in my big black book, I should say, I made a list of those things that I would be using that money for, including helping other people who have been struggling the same way that, you see this constantly. But the thing that you're talking about here, I think that is so wonderful, is accepting where you are right now. We have a beautiful gentleman, Billy Mandarino is his name. He refers to himself as the nowist. And that's what he focuses on. What we're focused on right now is Toni Ghazi, and we're talking about, well, always a lot of different things as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, along with Toni Ghazi, and we are in the midst of a conversation about the process of surrender, the process also, Toni, of listening to that still small voice. And sometimes it may not be a voice that you actually can hear internally. Sometimes it's more images or a prompting. And I know that we've all had that. And I used to jokingly say that we encourage people to listen to that still small voice. And of course, this time period being the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s. And I would say that if you are going to listen to the promptings but not follow them, why are you listening? And that's to me real important in one sense. And I'm not saying you should, I'm not setting down some kind of a rule, but the reality is that, and we came up in an interview that I did just yesterday with a couple of gals, that that still small voice or the divine, however you want to define it, is never, ever going to put you in harm's way. But it may challenge you. And I had a challenge years ago. I mean, probably 40, 35, 40 years ago when I was bicycling to work. I won't go into it right now. But the bottom line, when it was all over, I tried to figure out, okay, what was that all about? And the conclusion I came to was it really wasn't about much of anything other than the universe saying, are you serious? Are you serious about following the promptings? And sometimes that's what the universe will do. It will test you to see if you are serious. And they say words are cheap. Actions are, carrying out those actions is real important.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna, and like this is for you always. I've never done this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna literally like take my whole clothes. I'm gonna be naked, not physically, but naked
Mm-hmm.
with my true story for the first time ever,
Okay.
or it's like a small aspect of it. Because now I'm like realizing that I had shame all this time because of what I'm about to say. It may not be a big deal for people, but to me, it has been a thing that I only shared with very few people. But this is a healing moment, everyone. When you be vulnerable in front of the world, whether you're going to be judged, called whatever, is irrelevant. What's relevant is for me to come within my own truth of, and I'm almost going to cry now because I feel very emotional about what to say. All my life, I've always struggled like to save money. Me personally, I made so much abundance out of this world. Like it would have been easily for any other human to save money, like a snap of the finger. And I go back to my childhood when I was like 18 years old, like working at a bank, and we just moved um, um, like from Lebanon to the US. And like when you work at a bank, they have a small 401k. And I was making, I don't know, $8 an hour, whatever. This was 20, 30 years ago or more. I had a small 401k that had like $3,000 in it. And a friend of mine was in trouble, and I gave him the whole 401k. Like I've always been that person. There was abundance, and I always gave it away. Always, even to this day. Like this person like needs help, help. Like support this family. Like always, always, always. Like it's mind-boggling. If I go back in the past 10 years, all the money I made, like easily multimillionaire. But I don't save. In this moment, I realized as you're speaking and as the experience I went through in the past 2 weeks about when I heard like the word loaded, that triggered me and I resisted it. No wonder I haven't experienced the vibration of being loaded, although so much money came in and so much money I gave,
Mm-hmm.
because I never accepted my version of being loaded. I accepted the version that it's okay to make infinite abundance and to allow that abundance to go to other people. And that's okay too, right? But that's my own aha moment right now, my own like awakening of, because I even hired like a psychologist that specializes in businesses and how they make and how you deal with money and like we had a few sessions which was like, and I had a few breakthroughs, but this is a deeper breakthrough that I just had on your show, and I want to be quite transparent and honest, um, that I think will shift me into the idea of being loaded and just releasing the shame behind the fact that why haven't I, and I always wonder, why don't I have the ability to save? And believe me, I don't buy things for me that are like crazy and elaborate for my like I really don't. I always tell my husband, I can live on the street and I'll be happy. I can go live in the forest. And actually I want to live in the forest, but he's like, absolutely not. We're not living in the forest, but that's another story. You know what I mean? So I don't need the luxury of things, and I don't live in a very luxury. I'm super me, and of course, the more you ascend, the more like your spiritual, all those material stuff really go away. But you still need to survive. Like, you have a home and a mortgage and all these things. But in this moment with you, with your audience, because remember, what's occurring right now, even though you may not hear it now, you may hear it later. It's all happening in the now moment, but we're in the illusion that you're going to hear it later. So you all are healing me, and I want to thank you for this beautiful exchange. You, Richard, and whoever is going to hear it, because I just realized I didn't have the nerves because of shame and embarrassment to even say that out loud publicly,
Mhm.
despite the amount of abundance I made, and it's astronomical, like not astronomical, but a lot, right? That no way I could not have, but now it makes sense why I didn't. So we'll see how that shifts. We'll see if I begin like saving money for me for to heal that aspect that didn't see itself as, but also what you just said with like the story that I've had up to this point, and I'm 44 years old. I've always had what I needed for the next step, and at times it's literally at the last second. Not a joke.
Yeah.
Like this home that we bought, like I couldn't afford. Like we live in Washington D.C. It's like super expensive, right? And like I didn't have the down payment, um, and our landlord like approached us and said that, hey, because we were leasing it like for 3 years, and he said, hey, like look, my mom wants to sell her house and like she wants to go back home, like do you want to buy it? And I'm like, oh my God, we have 5 dogs, and like no other landlord will accept 5 dogs. Like people will freak out on one dog, let alone five, right? They're all rescue dogs and stuff. And I'm like, I don't have the full down payment to like buy this home. But I told him, like I will make it work. I didn't realize that I surrendered then, but now in like retrospect, I see in that moment, I surrendered to it's gonna happen somehow, and I have no idea how. Literally, he gave me like a month's notice to let him know, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to move, and how am I going to find? Within 2 weeks, a massive transaction like came down out of the blue. A stranger sent he said, I want to buy this house. It's a big house, a lot of money. That commission allowed me to have the specific down payment to buy this house.
Mm.
And like those are last minute things. Like I mean, your mind cannot comprehend how abundance will happen, but it happened that way. And I've always had that, right? Not always the last minute, which gets very scary, but I've always had the flow to allow me what you said, to need what you need in that moment without needing to have a nest egg or whatever it is. Although I feel like I've already like shifted that, and I will begin having the nest egg that I always deserve, because I am the infinite and I deserve it, and it's okay to be loaded or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? So I just want to thank your audience for that moment, because it was, it's a very personal thing. I haven't shared with anyone except
I'm
very
with
few friends.
I am with you there.
Yeah.
Something else that came to mind, and we're talking here about we're talking with Toni Ghazi, and we're talking about these different aspects of our lives. Um, as you and I are conversing right now, we have a rather monumental event coming up on Tuesday, and there's a phrase that's been used, two phrases that have been used. One in particular has been used for decades by many people who are very proud to live in this country. And that phrase is that this is the greatest country in the world, which is the reason why people are, in a manner of speaking, streaming across the southern border. Although I have also been privy to some news that they ain't just coming across the southern border, ladies and gentlemen. But my brother, for example, says this is the greatest country in the world. That's the phrase. And we had an interesting conversation around that. But what struck me just recently was there's another phrase that has only come into vogue in the last 9 years. And to me, it is a paradox. It's almost a contradiction that you can't get around when they say, let's make this country great again. I'm not quoting the exact phrase, but you know what I'm saying. How can you say, and I speak to our listeners, and this is an observation of mine, how can you say on the one hand that this is present tense now the greatest country in the world and turn around and say, let's make it great again. It is either great now or it isn't. And it's more, am I being semantical? Is this a non-important question? It goes along the same lines as those during the lockdown in 2020 March, who some people started to say, wait a minute, I'm not going to let the government tell, I have the freedom, I have the First Amendment right to blah, 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 blah. And then I would quote from the preamble to the Constitution that talks about promoting the general welfare and preserving the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. How do you balance, again, observation? I'm not being critical or judgmental. I'm asking a question. How do you balance your individuality with your commitment to community in this great country of ours? And one of the examples that I see is when there are these natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes and so forth, and people come out of the woodwork to help. They don't ask whether you're a blue or a red. They don't ask about your income or your religion, or your sexual orientation. You need help? I'm here to help. First responders are the same way. They're there to help because you're a fellow human being. You're a member of the community. You're hurting, et cetera, et cetera. Before we wrap things up, talk to us from your perspective, and maybe if you can share with us from the perspective of those that you channel, the divine array of beings that you are connected to, and how we can gently, non-judgmentally, open the hearts and minds of people who are, in a manner of speaking, and again, we'll acknowledge you have every right to be locked into whatever perspective that you want. Okay, we've already addressed that. That is true. But at the same time, if we are going to evolve collectively and cohesively as a society, we have to start recognizing our similarities and the importance that we all play in each other's lives. Tony?
Yes, thank you so much. Of course, politics is a very super sensitive subject for people, especially if you're within the matrix and like feeling this separate that that like we're separate like than all. I mean, like there's a lot, like we truly should have a whole like show just on that, just so it can help expand people a bit more. But let me tell you what the Mantis have told me. But quickly, when you said America is the greatest in the world, or however, like
Yeah.
and then the next level of it, make it again. Yes, they are semantics. As you said that, I'm like, and I'm sorry to say that, I love the US. I
Mhm.
live in the US. How arrogant for anyone to say that one country is the greatest country in the world. But
Mhm.
that already like tells you within it, deep layers, that there's divisiveness, that I am better than you, and there's judgment embedded in that statement. Why
Mhm.
don't we say our planet is one of the most beautiful planets among all other planets within the infinite? And I'm getting chills. When you say that, then you are including everyone within the beauty of all. But when you say, I am the greatest country in the world, you literally are saying every other country is disempowered and not as great as me. Pure judgment. Be
Yeah.
careful on what's being said, people.
Mhm.
You have to go deeper and deeper. And this is how the matrix works. This is how our government, our society shifts words, uses the beautiful words of the greatest and what, but within it there is divisiveness.
Mhm.
There is judgment. And the mantises and all the other beings do not see that. And because we are divided from each other, we don't see each other as one. We're unable to even see our planet as one. We're unable to see our country being as one as part of the planet. We literally see it as separate than the planet. That almost as if the US is completely off Mother Earth in some its own bubble. So, and look, having said that, there's nothing wrong. And this is what like the mantis and all and all other beings of energy say. Again, I go back to the idea of infinite. If you truly understand and know that you are the infinite, then you understand part of the idea of infinity is all those realities, that if you choose to live in a reality that is divided and of judgment, then you experience a world of such. So if you want to live in a world where America is the greatest, then you choose to live within the concept of what that means, which is I am separate than the rest of the countries and I'm the most strongest or whatever that's like defined as, and everybody else is viewed as judge, whatever, less than, more than, or whatever. But if you choose to live in a world that is one with all, then begin with you seeing yourself in all. So as you see the politicians, whatever, if they're Democrats, Republicans, in the middle, whatever those terms are, and I don't follow politics. My husband is very big on politics, and we always clash heads sometimes, very big. And he's like, you have no idea what's going on in the world because I don't watch the news, and even Lebanon with all the stuff's happening in Lebanon. I get so many calls about Lebanon. You're Lebanese, everybody okay? I don't, it's okay. That's one reality that people choose to be on. I'm on a different vibration. And my husband tells me, you are not from, like, you don't live in this planet, this reality. I'm like, yes, I don't. And I choose not to.
Yeah.
And that's okay because my bubble of reality is, I'm not judging you. I'm allowing you to have your reality. Because we all live in all these bubbles that are really separate, like than each other, like in a sense, like, because I'm not judging, I'm allowing, we can merge in with no judgment and witness your creation. Because really, when you live with the vibration of unconditional love, which our society does not understand, that's another massive topic. Unconditional love meaning validating and observing every reality that is out there. So when I see you as this politician, like making that choice, or this human, I guess, voting for that person, I validate your reality as part of all. But I also have a free will choice to say, I don't want to participate in that reality. I want to be in this vibration and frequency that we are all one. So that's where you really tap into the complete separation, that you are separate than all. Because in reality, when you know that you are the infinite and they are you and you are them, when you are judging that reality or that person or that choice, you literally are judging a part of who you are. And that's how you continue keeping like yourself separate from the rest. Because the moment where you stop like judging the others and allow the opportunity, even in the beginning you may not understand how it feels, or to be unconditionally loving to that other like version, like of like reality, but allow that unconditional love and no judgment to show you what you don't see within that human. Because the moment you allow that, you will see that every aspect of that human that you are judging for so long is literally a mirror for you, and he was you to begin with. I mean, this is layers and layers and layers. I don't want to say like ahead, but it takes a lot for people to get into that vibration, but it won't be challenging to get there. Like that's what I'm trying to say, right? There's no 12-step program to get there. It's really with your intention and with your redefining, because we think we understand what love is. We think we experience love from the highest perspective. We haven't even tapped into unconditional love. And the mantis being specifically through the Antares Stargate, the Antares energy. I was just told by this famous astrologer, it took me a year and a half to get an appointment with him. Literally, I waited a year and a half to have this one appointment. He told me, like, do you know what Antares means? And I gave him my explanation of. He's like, no. I'm not asking about the planet or the gate. Do you know what it means? I'm like, no. Please tell me. He said, it means unconditional love that humanity isn't able to comprehend at this moment, and that I've tapped into that energy. And this is when I speak these things that are so vast and almost untouchable, and like, you're insane, Tony. Like, what are you talking about? It's coming from that vibration.
And for me, as far as the news and so forth, I do watch it occasionally because my wife likes to watch it. But the only parts of the news that I like, and I'm glad they've incorporated this in there. And I know too, working in this industry for 45 years, that if it bleeds, it leads. That's the way it works. I already know of man's inhumanity to man. It's been going on since man has been here. It doesn't need to be reinforced in my head. I know that it's there. But the stories that I like, that they have incorporated into the newscasts, both locally and nationally, are what we call the good news stories of man's kindness to fellow man. And some of the stories make me cry because they're so beautiful. They're so wonderful. Some of the little social experiments that I've seen on YouTube and Facebook's reels and so forth, where you have these people who they're pretending to be someone they're not, and asking for help. And the first person that comes along to help them and digs deep into their pocket and gives them whatever they have, then receives something monumental that just blows them away and says, look, this is a social experiment to see who would help. And the first person to help is going to get this stack of $10,000 or 100, whatever it is. Or this one guy who would go to restaurants and say, how much is a ham sandwich? Can I get 100? So yeah, sure. What are you having, a party, a picnic? Well, no, I'm going to take these down and take them to homeless shelter to feed them. I'll tell you what, we'll double it. You don't have to pay for a thing. They then pay that forward, the restaurant, and then he says, and when I'm done serving them, I'll come back and give you guys some. So, oh no, you don't have to do that. He comes back and gives them a big gift as well. Those are the kinds of stories that show that we're not lost. And just to wrap this up, Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked. He's a physicist and an astronomer and so forth and so on, and scientist, and he was asked this question. He says, what one program on our television would you want aliens to see, those who are from other worlds, that would show that we deserve to continue on as a species? And he didn't think very long about it. He says, the Olympics. He says, you've got people who are competing for the gold, silver, and bronze, and yet they are a community. They're connected. And I remember one beautiful example from the Summer Games this past year, where this one gal, she did her gymnastics routine, whatever it was, I can't remember exactly, and they docked her points because her bra strap was showing. You're not supposed to let your bra strap show. So what did the other competitors do? They pulled their bra excuse me, their bra straps out to get the same penalty, and they would do their routine. And it just made the judges, they had to have been embarrassed. That, to me, that is the stupidest rule. I mean, it's unbelievable, but that shows the level of love and commitment, to the sport, but more so the love and commitment to each other in those games.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, I had never thought about that. That is so beautiful.
Because they see themselves as one in that moment,
Yeah.
right? And that bra strap that that happened, to take it like one step further, we need to give gratitude for the people that judged her and like docked her point, because if they haven't done that, those like women or men would not have stepped up in solidarity to say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with being, and they broke the paradigm in that moment. So everything is interconnected. When you begin seeing everything as ascended mastery, even the ones that judged are ascended masters, allowing you the opportunity to speak up. And that's exactly, and I have chills. I mean, look, I have chills all over my body right now, because this is how the universe works when you begin seeing everything as beauty, as ascended mastery, as expansion. You're not judging the choice of one person, because the act of one person judging the other allowed the opportunity for the others to stand up, to break that old paradigm, to shift into the higher vibration. And that's how we ascend with each other. But if you continue sitting here and judging the people that judge the bra strap and like seeing it from that perspective, you're missing the point, the grander point. And that's how we all ascend. But within your life, when you begin seeing every choice, the Mantis has said a million times, well, not a million times, but a lot. Every choice that you make, every decision that you have made, will make, and is making, is all ascended mastery. When you begin seeing yourself, and I have my eyes closed because I'm in a bit like channeling, when you see yourself in all the versions of who you are, and every thought you had, every intention, every decisions you made, you will make, you are making as ascended mastery, you shift vibrationally to a new paradigm of magic. Because in those moments, you are not judging self anymore. It's literally judgment that causes separation, and separation keeps you away from all the other versions of who you are. And the more that you are away from all the other versions of who you are, you'll never get to know the other selves of who you are. And that's what expansion is all about.
Yeah.
Is learning and meeting every self of who you are on the spectrum of all, which is the dark, the light, and the neutral.
Here, 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 here. Toni Ghazi is my guest. ToniGhazi.com. That's ToniGhazi.com. He is on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. No, Elon, I don't care what you named it. It's still Twitter. It will always be Twitter. Almost along lines back to my baseball conversations. Just like the stadium in which the Arizona Diamondbacks play in will always be known as Bank One Ballpark. I don't care who owns it. It'll always still be the Bob. That's what we called it back then, the Bob. And we are talking with Toni Ghazi, and you are listening to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and I thank you folks for staying with us as we continue our conversation with Toni Ghazi. Toni, we're going to wrap things up here. I would love to have you back on a regular basis because I would love to have that conversation that you sort of brought up that has perplexed people down through the ages. A conversation about love, unconditional love. We can talk about all of the other levels, but I find it fascinating, and I'm just going to preface that upcoming conversation we will have, that people will talk about God, the creator, the divine power, however you want to phrase it, as being unconditional love. And yet there are some philosophies that place conditions on his love. In other words, we have to believe a particular way. We have to do certain things. Otherwise, God is going to basically disown us. I'll just put it in that context. So I would love to talk about that aspect, especially from the context of those divine beings that you channel. And I don't know if that's something we can set up to where maybe we could have one of those folks, groups, entities, if you will. I'm not sure how to phrase it. Part of the program.
100%. The Mantis Collective, the Praying-Mantis Collective, you're welcome to call them that.
Okay.
It's just a massive consciousness, right? I mean, I would absolutely love to. It would be an honor because look, that's how healing happens, and this is my mission, on Earth. And I actually told my husband today. I said, "Babe, you know what? Everything happened in my life for this exact point. I realized today that what I'm doing, what I awoke to in the past like year, has been what I've been waiting for eons. Like,
Mm.
and everything allowed me to be here. I said, like this whole real estate journey I had allowed me to be here. Every part of every decision that I ever judge about myself, and I should have done this, I should have done that, and you're 40 and you should have, and all that, all is leading me to this because we're going to ascend together. We're going to shift vibration. We're going to break old paradigms. We're going to break out of the matrix. You're going to remember you are the infinite that you have been always searching for. And literally, we just have to restructure a few definitions like within us, and then you begin feeling the empowerment within you, and then you're on your own. You don't need me. And I always tell my clients, please don't look at me at any extra special like you are. And the reason that I shared and I was super naked with you today is to let people know I am like everyone else. But the goal is to get you to a point where you rely on you, because the wisdom, the infinite, the abundant, everything is within you. Always has been within you. We're just living in an illusion that we don't. And because of that illusion, we're experiencing the don't.
Yeah.
So my job is just to remind you that everything is inside of you.
Right. And we will have you back. We'll schedule that following this one to have you back to talk about unconditional love. And Toni, I want to thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for your audience for, again, opening your arms and accepting me. And I'm always here to answer any questions, and I look forward to our beautiful journey together.
That website, once again, is ToniGhazi.com. We'll be linked to that website so that you folks can get there and find out more about Toni, connect with him, contact him, and maybe work with him. And Toni, I did this the last time we talked, and I'm going to do it again. I've got three questions that I ask of all of my guests. I was asked not long ago. I did two interviews back to back, and I didn't ask those questions. And it was primarily because the first guest that I had been on three times within the month. And the second program that I had was a sort of a roundtable conversation, and it just didn't quite fit in. And I thought, okay, so I've got to make sure that I do this. I got to make sure that I ask those questions. I will do that. But first, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m. And we're here Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. Podcasts are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're also on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. We hope you'll subscribe and click notification. A reminder that Choices 5 Steps for Life is now available. It is at Amazon.com in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, with Audible soon to arrive. And we also hope that if you can support the work that we're doing here financially, we would be gratefully appreciated. Universe, are you listening? I hope so. If you can, we'll take energetic support as well. PayPal is there for your security as well as ours. And put in the email address, richard@richarddugan.com, when they ask you for that. There is a link on richarddugan.com, the homepage, that takes you straight to the PayPal link for support. So we thank you for that. There is also a link on the homepage so that it'll take you straight to Amazon to purchase a copy of Choices 5 Steps for Life. And finally, we ask you to take the time during this, the decade of perfect vision, to spend some time in that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. I now go to the final three questions for a very special guest, and certainly he will be returning more than just one more time. We're going to have him on a regular basis. The first of those three questions is, who is Toni Ghazi?
Ay, ay, ay. Who isn't? I'm all. And I'm learning and attempting to meet every version of who I am.
What gets you up in the morning?
You know what? And this is gonna sound so cheesy. Just love. Truly, I'm a love bug, and I exude, and like when people around me sometimes they always say, "Oh, you have this energy about you," and the fact you asked that question is the first time I say I'm love. I am love. I just am unconditional love. Um, Learning the many facets of what unconditional love means within the infinite. That's who I am.
And finally, what was your best day?
Oh God, what was my best day? What's coming through right now is and it all kind of relates to this, is really the day back in July 2023 where I owned this new version of me that says I talk to insectoid beings within Washington, D.C., in a very conservative town, but I just owned that version of me and ran with it. I think that's one of the best days of my life because it really allowed me to tap into the inhibition of being all of it. And through that, I began being aware that I'm more than I am. So that massive contrast of being a human in the three-dimensional world, not knowing anything about this life, but yet all of a sudden I come out, tell the world, I talk to insectoid beings from some, other planet, is the best day because it allowed me the freedom to begin to experience every aspect of who I am with no fear. Not even courage was like necessary because it was like a knowingness of being. So that's my freedom from the matrix. So it is the best day.
Toni, thank you again for joining us here on the program, and we look forward to having you back again. And I thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to love. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dan, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.